Up next, we're diving into a topic where cutting-edge tech meets life-saving care. Get ready to explore how AI is transforming healthcare at none other than the Mayo Clinic. From diagnosing to discovery, we'll learn how they're making healthcare smarter, faster, and maybe even a little more predictive than I am. Please join me in welcoming Cris Ross and Gabriel Perna to discuss AI in healthcare at the Mayo Clinic.
All right. Hopefully the microphone's working. Sounds like it is. There we go. I'm Gabriel Perna with Modern Healthcare, covering the digital health and AI world within healthcare. And next to me is the unbelievable Cris Ross, who is recently retired, recently left as the CIO of Mayo Clinic. If you're not familiar with the healthcare world, Mayo Clinic is one of the top institutions, quite frankly, in the world. And Cris is a big reason why. We're going to talk a little bit about AI and what Cris has led at Mayo Clinic. But I wanted to start, we were talking backstage, this is a general audience, and there might be some folks here who are not as familiar with the healthcare world, that don't understand the intricacies of healthcare. Cris, I wanted to ask you, what makes healthcare so unique when it comes to AI and tech in general, and what are some of the opportunities that you see and some of the challenges as well?
So I'll try and answer all the complexities of healthcare in 5 minutes. Healthcare is, it's 17% of the U.S. economy. I think everyone has a personal experience of healthcare. It's not always perfect. It oftentimes feels disjointed and disconnected and expensive. So I think there's sort of 5 big problems in healthcare that really should be our focus, and I think AI's got a piece to all of it. One sounds sort of pedestrian, but it's a big deal, is we have a generational shortage of healthcare professionals. In the US, it's nursing. In Europe, it's physicians. But it's going to take 30 or more years to solve this problem. And AI has some challenges in other industries from an ethical perspective on reduction in jobs. But look, if it can do jobs of people in healthcare, it's a hero job. We want that. A second really big issue is data and language. Healthcare is estimated by RBC Capital to have about 30% of the world's data is healthcare data. It's growing at a 36% CAGR compared to lower numbers for other industries. So healthcare data is going to continue to explode. And there's real challenges in that doctors want to have conversations with patients, and then they want to describe what's going on with that patient in a written narrative form, in a way that somebody else can understand. But the problem is that we need structured data in order to do quality management, reimbursement, research. And that's why doctors are turning their back to you when you're in a visit and they're working on the computer. And they really don't like that job. And we need to figure out how to do that. And obviously, AI's got all kinds of ways in which it can work on structured text to narrative, narrative to structured text, ambient listening to create a record, and so on. A third real problem is patient experience. Who has had a patient experience that you would gripe about or give less than 5 stars of Yelp the last time you went to a doc, right? I mean, it happens all the time. And I believe that there's a role for AI in making the experience of going to the doctor better, meaning things like, how do I get a record of what the doctor just told me? Because I'm stressed out. I just got a diagnosis or an update on my condition, and I'm not hearing what the doctor is saying. So what can we do to improve the patient experience by using AI tools to be explainers? So patients can ask questions of a record and have a computer answer in a sensible way, where doctors don't have time to answer those questions. Fourth big area is access, affordability, and quality. It's not easy to get in to see your medical professional. Quality is still an issue. We still have tens of thousands of people who are injured every year in the US from medical injury that's avoidable. So there's all sorts of things we can do to improve. And then the fifth big challenge is cures for uncurable diseases. And how do we get to discovery, and how do we get to advanced treatment that we don't have today? So, I'm super bullish on what AI can do in healthcare. We need to go as fast as we can, but no faster than is safe. But there are things that are already entering healthcare that are going to make a difference for all of us in the imminent future.
And you guys you have your toes in all of those areas that you just mentioned. The one I'd love to hit on first is that last one, looking at diagnosis, looking at rare diseases and just areas where AI can be some kind of clinical decision support tool. This is not an area that a lot of health systems are working in with AI right now, because it is a challenging area to get in. Talk about what you guys are doing at Mayo Clinic in this area and what you've kind of seen so far.
Yeah. So as a sort of disclaimer before I answer your question directly, I want to say I thought Allie did a master class at the big opening session talking about how AI can work. And I've talked for a number of years about the difference between big AI, which are these diagnostic treatment kind of engines, and little AI, which is things that will help people in the interim. So we definitely want to put a lot of focus on those little AI tasks because they are transformational. But in terms of diagnostic engines and so on, some of the stuff that we've done in Mayo is, for instance, detection of arrhythmias. And we've set up a company, Anumana, to go after that. An ECG is typically 12 leads, 6 lead. It's sort of difficult to have the leads attached, and you have to have a read, and it takes a while, and so on. What our researchers found out in this fantastic paper that was in Nature a couple of years ago was they took patients who were known to have a common arrhythmia disease, atrial fibrillation, which can be really a significant health risk. Yeah. And they took the patients known to have it and patients known not to have it. Then they took ECGs of the patients when they were in normal rhythm, right? Their hearts were beating just fine. Cardiologists couldn't tell a difference between those two populations. Machine learning could. So they could identify with a high area under the curve accuracy of patients who had atrial fibrillation just looking at normal rhythm. So now we're at the point where this is being compacted to where the rhythms can be detected on a single lead ECG, meaning something that can be in an Apple Watch or some other device. And from that, we can both diagnose arrhythmias, but also treat them. So when a patient goes into arrhythmia, you can take interventions to get them back into rhythm. Atrial fibrillation is a common chronic disease. It's significant. It's not going to directly kill a person, but it can. It can lead to stroke and so on. But what we're aiming at next is then advanced things like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is, when you hear about an athlete who drops dead on a field, normally they have a disease like that, which is indetectable today. We think we can in the lead. Second one, real quick, we worked with Google to develop algorithms to do better radiotherapy treatment of disease. And we started with head and neck cancers. And what happens is when you have radiotherapy, particles are zoomed into your head, they go through your head and come out the other way. And what we want to do is put the maximum lethal dose on that tumor, but not damage other things on the way out. And that's a really complex process to do that contouring. What we were able to do with Google was to develop ways that did it incredibly fast, but also gave physicians options. Well, we could enter this way, we could enter this way, we could enter this way. And then we expanded that to other tumors in the body. But I could talk about things that we're doing with detection of pancreatic cancer, things we're doing around transplant matching to do a better job of matching organs with patients and to provide interim therapies so that maybe we can avoid a transplant altogether. I'm probably going on too long, but there's just a bunch of stuff that's happening.
No, I know, and a lot of it is exciting. One thing that stuck with me on Allie's presentation that's certainly true in healthcare is the fear of job loss and job replacement.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that's true in healthcare. I know there are a lot of doctors out there who are saying, oh, they're going to try to replace me with an AI agent.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's true at Mayo. How do you kind of work with these doctors, champion the usage of AI, but reassure them like, hey, your job's not going anywhere?
Yeah, I really like Eric Topol's quote, which is AI is not going to replace doctors, but doctors who use AI will replace doctors who don't. I think that's absolutely true. You know, I've spent time with radiologists, and radiologists is the one where they say, well, we're going to get rid of it right away. The amount of time that a radiologist spends on the Where's Waldo thing, trying to find the lesion in a liver or something, is actually pretty damn quick. You watch these guys, and it's a wizardry kind of thing. They'll flip through a CT image and bang, be able to know what's going on. They're spending the majority of their time not identifying is there a lesion, but what does this lesion mean in the context of the patient? And writing that report is really where the expertise lies, right, to a large degree. So I don't think that's going to go away, but there will be some tasks like many organizations, including Mayo, are working at things like, can we have a machine write a report on a chest x-ray? A chest x-ray is something you do kind of quickly to identify, is there a pulmonary embolism that could kill this patient? Is there something really profound? Is there pneumonia? A machine can read that and provide a reliable report pretty well. Yeah, pretty well. And that's not going to be diagnostic quality. If there's something there, the patient is going to have an MRI or a CT anyway. There'll be follow-up things. But boy, if we could take away the work of having a human read a chest x-ray in an ED setting or an inpatient setting, it goes back to the first problem I listed of labor shortage, right? We can get more done with the same number of radiologists. Radiologists can work on more important stuff.
I know at Mayo, it's not all just research and it's all not hypothetical. You're using it in a lot of practical ways. Yep. Talk about the AI factories that you and I had discussed and kind of how Mayo thinks about AI as an enterprise-wide strategy, not just like, hey, it's this cool thing that could help us with diagnosis.
Yeah, you know, Gabe, I'm really reflecting on this a lot as I'm figuring out kind of what transformational challenge do I want to take on next. We spent a lot of time at Mayo preparing our data and getting our enterprise systems aligned with that data. So we made a big bet 11 years ago that we needed to consolidate all of our electronic health record systems. So we did that. We spent a long time on it. Cost us a lot of money, took us a lot of time. But we got to one electronic health record system across our whole enterprise. But when we did that, we knew that we didn't want to be limited by what a commercial off-the-shelf vendor could offer us. So we created our own data environment to take data out of silos and put it in a unified multimodal environment. And lots of industries are doing that. At this point now, we have in Mayo Clinic Cloud, which is hosted within GCP, about 80 petabyte of data that is in our advanced data lake. And then we have a longitudinal patient record. That means every piece of data around each patient aligned, not in a silo, but longitudinally across each patient. We've got that for about 12 million patients at this point. So in order to use that data, then we set up an AI factory. And ours happens to be hosted within the Vertex Google environment, but we've got access via APIs to essentially any of the other models that our researchers want to get to. At any given time, we've got about 250 to 300 projects going in discovery and then movement into production. And we also created not just an AI factory for discovery, but a cloud app factory. Okay, we built a great algorithm, or we bought a great algorithm. Now we wanted to put it in practice. We need to have that environment. So, you know, I'm just a working CIO, you know. I mean, people out here are doing great innovative stuff. But guys like me have to be thinking about that life cycle management problem. You know, I always tell my team that we have two jobs. One is to support you know, a technology for the world's best hospital. I can say that now that I don't work there. I can brag about me. But, you know, just getting up every day and making sure that the tech runs for a great hospital is a big job. The second is how do we innovate at Silicon Valley speed and put stuff into production. So we have to create that kind of membrane between innovation and production that's sensible. So every institution that's going to buy your stuff needs to be thinking about, I've got a great algorithm, but where's the data that I can act upon in order to use that algorithm? And then I need to put it in a way that it can be within workflow of a knowledge worker. in a sensible way. Does that make sense?
It does. 250, that's a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize? How do you look at these different AI projects, initiatives, startups, companies, all coming to you, all wanting to work at the world famous Mayo Clinic and say like, this is the right one, this isn't right? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, so what we tried to do was to create a democratized environment that was sort of self-enforcing from a data privacy, security mode. And I think we've done pretty well with that. Then it's the issue of startups that arrive with a really great solution. And we've been working with a bunch of companies that have provided great solutions, and a bunch of these are insight companies like LeanTOS, helps us a bunch with managing surgical scheduling. It's a really specialized task, really important, works really well. We compared against other vendors. We were working with LeanTOS. We have been thinking about other things we can bring in. But the challenge really is when you're sitting in my shoes, you don't want to have an aggregation of point solutions that don't work well together.
Yeah.
Right? So table stakes is you got to come and show up at my doorstep with a FHIR-oriented set of APIs. I don't want any proprietary stuff. Sorry. If you've got a point solution, don't try and sell me a platform. I already have a platform. If you really are a platform, then I want to talk to you. But a lot of small companies say, well, we're a platform, and they're not. They're a point solution, and I love them for that. And we need to figure out how to make that work. The thing about generative AI is it is fully democratic. It used to be if you wanted to do AI, you needed to have a fantastic data set, perfectly annotated and curated. You needed to have a data scientist. You needed to have somebody who could write Python. And that was just like to get started.
Yeah.
And now with the generative tools, you're training them by talking to them,
Yeah.
right? By speaking to them, giving them language. And you don't need the same kind of data science that you needed before. So that's why we're seeing this explosion, and it's why I'm so incredibly bullish about what the generative tools in particular can do to add to the OG AI stuff. It still has power.
We got 1 minute left. You recently retired. Congratulations. What's on the, I know you said retired was the nice way they put it, but what's next for you in terms of where you see AI in healthcare headed and where you see Cris Ross headed? Yeah,
so thanks for the question. I think, part of this, everybody should be thinking about this if you're thinking about doing AI in healthcare. I spent a lot of time thinking about the infrastructure in the past, getting multimodal data well curated. My job, up to the point that I left the organization was really around how do we get AI into production with a particular focus on little AI, the helper tools that can move fast. The big tools are going to take longer. We should work on them the way we go. To me, it's really thinking about those 5 big challenges and then thinking about all the players in this space, innovative startups, research organizations like Mayo, platform players like the hyperscalers. What role will each of those have in solving those 5 big problems? And what I'm looking for is to do some introspection about how do those players map against those problems and then figure out where really are the opportunities for transformation.
Definitely not the last we've heard of you, Cris. And thank you so much for your time on here and sharing some of your insights.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Taking flight, I'm breaking up with the